What is good, YouTube? Quinn Wade basketball analysis coming to you with a quick video. We're going to talk about the play-in tournament for the East. I just got done watching some Charlotte Hornets, and even though they have had an amazing season compared to what we thought that they would be, you have to give a lot of credit to Borrego for coaching his team and getting the most out of the talent that he has. This team has been an exciting team for years. I don't think just because they went in made this team better. They had the right system, they had the right attitude, and they worked their butt off to get to a point where they even better than they was last year. They actually got a good player in LaMelo Ball who has been a great fit. A guy that's been energetic, has made good plays, has made guys around him better. Terry Rozier was one of the most criticized players of that offseason. He has lived up to close or up to that contract that he signed and has really been one of their best players, especially because Gordon Hayward, a guy that people feel was overpaid. And Charlotte do kind of regret it because they're going to be locked into this contract for a couple more years. But he played at an all-star level when healthy. His biggest problem has been staying on the court for a long period of time. I can't really blame Gordon Hayward for taking the money. I can't really blame Gordon Hayward for going out there and securing the bag, as people like to say. But when he was healthy, he played pretty well. He has been a huge impact player when he played. But I knew that in Boston. I'm a Boston Celtics fan. He never could stay healthy for a long stretch with Boston. He just couldn't from day one to his entire career with Boston. And Charlotte knew that that was a risk when they paid him and when they brought him on board. And it has been a huge handicap. If they have a healthy Gordon Hayward, they probably a lock for a top AC in Charlotte. I mean, Charlotte would be a top AC lock this year. If he doesn't miss these last couple weeks, they probably a lock to be a playoff team. But since he's not, and we don't know when he's coming back, and if he does come back, he's not going to be the same because he's coming off an injury. It does put Charlotte in a tough spot where they have been pretty good the entire year, and have been really a 500 or above team for the most of the year. But just like every other team, they have had so many small things that have gotten in the way and that just destroyed the season that they really wanted to have. And even though I still think they're going to be a tough out to in that play-in tournament, it's just because I respect them, and the respect for this team goes further than just this year. I don't think LaMelo Ball and Gordon Hayward was the reason. I felt like they was playing well even when they was losing, even when they was getting blew out. And I have respect for this team years ago, not just this year, even though they winning more. So I wanted to get that out the way. But when you look at the fact that Miami and Boston play again, and it's looking like Boston is going to be in the play-in tournament too, which has been a huge disappointment. You bring Kimba, Jalen Brown playing at an all-star level, same with Jason Tatum. You still have Smart. You have changed the supporting cast around this team, even brought in a guy like Evan Fournier, who has been off and on and injured, and I felt like he was a downgrade to Gordon Hayward, but you had to get somebody, and I'd rather take him than not have him, to be honest. And it hasn't worked. It just haven't. We haven't been the defensive team that we used to be. We haven't been a consistent offensive team. Changing our strategies, changing our personnel. It seems like we're trying to find ourselves. It seems like we're trying to find something that fits us, trying to find something that works for us on both ends of the court. And you just can't play a season like that. And the Boston has been inconsistent all year, even with the injuries, even with the COVID, even with the protocols being a factor. We just haven't been on the same page from a coaching perspective, from a player perspective, from a personnel perspective. It's been really a frustrating year, especially when the fact we were just in the Eastern Conference Finals, a couple minutes away from going to a game 7. And this year we look discombobulated. We look scrambled. We look, you know, outcasted. And I don't like this team. I really don't. And the future for this team isn't as bright as we think. When you look at the fact that Jason Tatum and Jalen Brown has played some of their best seasons this year, and it ultimately may not be enough and we looking at possibly realistically a first round exit. That's a huge disappointment from where we was last year, and the fact that we were trying to build upon that year and go further this year when we going into free agent and we took a huge step backwards. You never want to go backwards. You never want to go back to your past. You want to build upon your past and make a better present and future. And we have did the opposite, and it has been disappointing. Even though I still do see Boston making it to the playoffs, not just because they the 7th seed, so they get more of a easier chance to secure a spot compared to the teams below them. We only got to win one game to stay in there. Too, Tatum, Brown, and Smart and them guys can get that done. But honestly, just like I said about the West, this is a disappointment. This season is not something to be proud of. This season is not something to be happy about. This is a huge disappointing season for a Celtic fan, to be real, all the way real. And once we get to the playoffs, I don't really think we're a dangerous team. I really don't, because we have to win 4 out of 7. And I just don't see us doing that. We have the capabilities of doing it if we played the way we're supposed to, but we have season, so I don't see that magically happening now. And if it does, we still have to win 2 more series just to get back to the Eastern Conference Finals. And I don't see that realistically happening with the way we have played throughout the season. We still do have some firepower. We still can give some teams some trouble, but ultimately we are what we have always been, and that's just an okay team all season. When I look at the fact that the Wizards have had an easy schedule and they have took advantage of it, they really had injuries and all this chaos happening in the beginning of their season, and they just sucked. They just couldn't get on the same page. They have really won the games that they were supposed to win. Russ has stepped up numbers wise. Same with Bradley Beal has done it all season. That's why I'm all NBA this year, and that's what they have to do. This team has to really figure out how to defend. When I watch them, even against bad teams, I see why they suck. I see why they lose, and I see why they struggle. Even watching the Pacers game, a team that really has been decent at best, they sucked that game, and they still should have won that game. And it just showed you how bad the Wizards really are. And this team, the storyline fits them. They playing their best basketball when it matters most, and they also climbed out of the bottom to the middle almost in the East, but they still technically at the bottom because they ninth. I don't see it happening either. I don't look at this team as a threat. I don't look at this team as a team you should be scared of. They don't care about defense. They don't play the right way. And Westbrook has been a wild card. Some games he lights you up. Some games he just can't make a shot. Some games he don't want to take a shot. Some game he launches threes. Some games he don't want to shoot any threes. You just don't know what you're going to get out of him. That's something that's been consistent throughout his whole career from a rookie to now. And I'm not going to bet any money on Westbrook even when he's been the second or first best player, he has always had the flame out games or the games where he just destroys your team. And even watching the fourth quarter against the Pacers, they had so many chances to win that game, and the Wizards still couldn't execute like always with a Russell Westbrook team, and they still could have won that game. They actually was leading even in overtime, and they played so terrible offensively and defensively. They still should have won that game. And I'm not betting any money on the Wizards because of that. They have been so bad the entire year. Even watching their games now, they look bad, even against bad competition. I can't get behind this team. I can't ride with this team because I just see what this team really is, and it's a bad team. And even though you look at the last team, the Pacers, they just don't have enough firepower. They just don't. They just can't get consistent buckets. They just can't score enough to put teams away. And that's why they just find themselves in no man's land, where they have enough talent to be competitive and compete, and they have a coach that's going to hold them accountable, and they're going to try. They just don't have the talent. They just don't have the shot makers. They just don't have enough playmaking to really be serious as a team. And that's why they never could really get over the hump. With all the injuries and all the trades, they just been stuck as a okay team too. The problem is teams like the Wizards and like the Celtics, They have guys that can step up. They have guys that can make big plays and make big pushes. The Pacers just don't have that. Sabonis has been a respectable player, especially for the Indiana Pacers, but he just not a takeover dominant player. He just not. And they just don't have that. And that's something that the other teams do have that they don't. And that's why I see the Pacers missing. They just was good enough all year, but good enough sometimes just don't get you where you need to go. And that's why I see them missing. So it really just comes down to Charlotte and the Wizards. And I will pick Charlotte. They have the ability just to win one game. We know that Terry Rozier can get hot. We know that they have guys that play big and step up in their roles. And they just one hot shooting game away from just locking up an eight spot. And I'm going to go with Charlotte. And that sounds crazy because coming into this season, I didn't have the Wizards making the playoffs as a prediction, and I didn't have Charlotte. And here we are with two teams that I was low on, and I'm still in. But I still think Charlotte should have enough. They have enough to win one game to lock up that spot. And even though I don't see none of these teams being a legitimate championship contender, I don't see none of these teams really being good for a long period of time to win a series. These teams are what they are. They showed it all season. They play like this all season. And this is why they all find themselves in a situation where they're playing for the bottom of the East and they playing for a first round exit in the first round. And it's unfortunate for all the fan bases. And it's unfortunate for the organizations that put a lot of time to build these rosters and make a lot of these decisions just to have, honestly, for all these teams, a huge disappointment. Indiana coming into the season basically getting put out in the first round last year. The Wizards not even making it last year, and the Celtics had a huge step back. This is just a huge disappointment for all these teams when you look at where they was last year and you look at them at a similar or worse situation than they was last year. This is not, a good season for the East again. And unfortunately, one of these teams do have to make the playoffs. And since the 7th seed actually can get to two, it makes three of them now four. I only really see the Charlotte Hornets and the Celtics being just enough to make it to the playoffs, but not enough to really do anything serious in the playoffs. And, you know, the thing that favors them is the fact that it's not as hard to lock up a spot because they already in the spots. And I don't see that changing with a couple games left of the season. So, you know, I'm not too excited for none of these teams, even my Celtics, but um, these are the teams I think gonna make it. I think the Celtics lock up seventh, Charlotte stays in eighth, and we just have to see if they can get their guys back and try to play their best basketball when it matters most, and that's the playoffs. And all you gotta do is have an opportunity to get in, and then you have a chance to win the title. You never know what happens, but these teams have been up and down all year. This is who they are. This is what they've been, and I'm not going to change how I feel about them now. Other than that, Quinn Wade, basketball analysis. I'm gone. I'll be back with another video hopefully tomorrow. Other than that, hope you guys enjoyed your weekend. Hope you guys enjoyed the rest of y'all day. Happy Mother's Day to all the beautiful moms that's taking care. I love the grandmas too, for taking care and helping raise this next generation and the next generation after that. Other than that, stay with your loved ones, do your thing. Quinn Wade.